Hello and welcome to the Connections webinar series brought to you by the Master of Arts in Communication program and the Johns Hopkins University Office of Advanced Academic Programs. Today's event features a discussion on internal comms as a behavioral function and LinkedIn for strategic growth. Please note today's event will be recorded and uploaded to the AAP YouTube channel under the Connections playlist. During the program, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A function, and we will answer as many questions as possible during the latter portion of the event. With that, I will turn over the presentation to our moderator, Dr. Patricia Hernandez, Assistant Program Director and Senior Lecturer for the Master of Arts in Communication program.
Thank you, Natalie, and thank you all for joining us today, wherever you are around the world. Here in DC, it's the afternoon. I'm so pleased to introduce Katerina. I'm so thrilled that she's speaking with us today as one of my former students and advisees, and I love following her on LinkedIn. She's an absolute LinkedIn guru, but more importantly, a internal comms expert. She's a CEO and principal consultant at Sage, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to her, and I can't wait to hear from her and all about her experience and expertise in internal comms.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hernandez. It's incredible to be here, not as a student, as an expert. And I do appreciate this opportunity. And welcome to all of our participants. So I will deliver my presentation. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. And after my presentation, we will try to answer all of your questions. So let's start. And I want to start with a question. How many of you have launched a communication campaign this year? You can raise your hands using Zoom.
I see 5, 6, 8. Oh, quite a few people.
Okay, next question is, how many of you are confident that those your communication campaigns led to actual behavior change? What I want to mention, that communication does not equal the information. Because we communication professionals, we don't just share messages. We don't just share information. We shape actions. For example, internal communication function or employee communication function, it is not just about keeping your employees informed. Corporate culture function is not just about how well your employees remember company values. Together, internal communications and corporate culture can motivate your employees to act in that way that support your strategy, in the exactly way that you need to develop your business. Those functions shape how your employees behavior every day. And that is why those functions directly influence productivity, performance level, engagement level, even retention and reputation, because your employees can be the best advocates of your brand. You can ask, how do I know it? So let me introduce myself. I spent over 15 years in leadership roles across metallurgical, oil and gas, and logistics companies. And mostly those companies were in the period of their biggest transformation. And I built internal comms and culture functions from scratch for those companies. And some of them, it was mostly big companies, up to 350,000 of employees. Also, I hold master's degree from Johns Hopkins University. And of course, this degree helped me not only to know how to manage communication, how to create communication campaign. This degree helps me to understand why my communication campaign will work and how to make those communication campaign effective. I specialize in designing strategies that shape employee behavior in line with strategic goals to improve their performance. And all the time, I focus on shaping employees' behavior. Also, I created the SAGE maturity model for assessing the development level of internal comms and corporate culture functions. Also, during my studies at Johns Hopkins, almost all our assignments was based on research studies. And I know that today we have also students from Johns Hopkins, and of course, you know it. And that is why I want to share some research results with you that prove that internal comms is a function that influence the results of the company. For example, 23% of employee engagement level is directly driven by internal organizational communications. Moreover, 66% of employee identification with the company depends on internal communications quality. And 55% of perceived support comes from how satisfied employees are with internal communications. And all those factors influence their engagement level, and that is why it influences their performance, because engaged employees, and we have also plenty of research studies that prove that employee engagement level influence performance of our employees. And that is how it influence internal communication, influence business results of the company overall. But the main question is how to develop a campaign that drives behavior change. And next slide that I want to share with you, next information is valid not only for internal communications. It is valid and relevant for any communication campaign for external audiences as well. So first of all, we need to start with defining the behavior we want to change. And usually, actually, it is the easiest step, but most of professionals just skip it. We need to define not just awareness that we need to reach, not just attitudes that we want to form, not just values we want to create. We need to define behavior. For example, we can ask ourselves when we are creating the campaign, or we can ask our stakeholders, what exactly do we want our employees to start doing or to stop doing or to change? When and how often they should it happen? In what context or situation? For example, some easiest examples. Maybe we need log every incident in the system within 24 hours, or we need to start every team meeting with a safety check, or we need to motivate our employees to offer specific product to every customer, or we want to launch a safety campaign and we need to define the behavior. For example, we need to motivate our employees to wear protective gloves when handling machine parts. So we need to define a specific behavior we want to influence or we want to shape. Step number 2, we need to understand what drives or blocks that behavior. And I want to introduce you the theory of planned behavior. And yes, I know it from my Johns Hopkins studies. And of course, we studied plenty of theories. And what do I love? That actually it is not just about communication. It is psychological theory. And knowing those theories, we can implement it in our work, in our daily work. And we can understand why our campaign will work and how to create campaign step by step using proven theories. For example, this is one of my favorite theories. I think it was from the course of Changing Behavior Communication. And according to this theory, we have 3 main factors that influence it, that actually shape our behavior. I mean human beings. So first of all, it is attitude. Does the employee see value for themselves in this particular behavior? Second is subjective or social norm. Do they believe that others expect or support this behavior? And number 3 is perceived control. do they feel capable of doing it? Step number 3, when we already know which behavior we want to shape, when we already know what drives this behavior or what stops this behavior, what barriers do we have, now knowing this information, we can design the campaign following those 3 factors from the theory. For example, the first factor is attitude. And what do we need to do? We need to show the value of this behavior. We need to help employees or any other target audience if it is external campaign. We need to help our target audience to see what is it in it for them, specifically for them. We need to focus on how this behavior benefits the individual, not just the whole organization. And actually, it is a very popular mistake that some campaigns include information about overall organization and their benefits, but we need to focus on specific our target audience. For example, we can highlight specific practical advantages for our target audience. Maybe they can save time. Maybe it would reduce their efforts. Maybe it will improve their daily workflow. Also, we can link the behavior to solving some familiar pain points, some familiar problems in their everyday work. And of course, we need to avoid some abstract benefits, some generic messaging, some work premises, because we need to focus on our target audience and on their specific values, because we need to shape their attitude. Step number 2, if you remember, that factor number 2 is subjective or social norms. So we need to create a social proof. We need to show, we need to demonstrate that others expect or support or already demonstrate this behavior. We need to shape this perception that this behavior is valuable for other people as well, and they support it. If we are talking about internal comms, it means that we are shaping the perception around our organization. If we are talking about this external communication campaign, we are talking about the environment where this behavior is relevant. And we need to remember that people are more likely to act when they see that their colleagues or leaders or teams that they trust, that those people that they trust, they already doing it or they're supporting it. For example, when we are creating our messages, we can include messages from leaders or trusted peers. We can share real examples of our colleagues who have already adopted this behavior. Also, we can highlight some team-wide examples, like, for example, 85% of teams already switched or something like that. And of course, we need to use public recognition to inform the norm. That is why usually during my career, I was responsible not only for internal communications, but corporate culture as well. And recognition programs were a very important part of it, because when you can show this public recognition, it also shapes the attitude to this behavior. And of course, we need to avoid making the change feel optional or waiting for everyone to decide individually if they want to adopt this behavior or no. We can't wait. We need to shape it by ourselves. The next factor, according to theory of planned behavior, is perceived control. So we need to make it feel doable, that I am, as employee, that I am able to do it, that I have all the resources, that I have skills, and so on. That is why we can break down the behavior so it feels easy and achievable. Even, for example, even if our employees see the value, like first factor, and they know that others support this behavior, this is the second factor according to the theory, but they won't act if it feels too hard or too confusing. For example, what we can do developing our messaging and tactics. First of all, we can break down complex actions into simple steps. Also, we can provide guidelines, trainings, and all explanations that we can provide with our employees. Of course, we can use visuals and demos to show how it works or how to use it. And we can share quotes from other peers, for example, like it took only 5 minutes, and some other examples. We need to avoid overwhelming instructions, technical jargon, and any other communication jargon, and assuming prior knowledge. After we followed those 3 steps, we need to remember that every campaign should start with clear behavior goal and end with matching metrics. Some of communication professionals struggle to measure the results of their campaigns, and usually they measure some common metrics as open rates, clicks, awareness, and so on. But we are able to measure the behavior change. How we can do it? First of all, we need to define the action we want to see. And it was, if you remember, it was our step number 1. For example, we want to motivate our sales team to sell more of product X. What we need to do, we need to measure the baseline before the campaign. For example, how many products they are selling like every month. Then we need to launch the campaign, and then we need to measure the same behavior again. Some more examples. If we want our employees to adopt a new system, we can track logins or usage of the system before and after our communication campaign. If we are launching a safety campaign, we can track incidents reporting or compliance before and after the campaign. So the idea is simple, that we need to define the behavior before, we need to measure the baseline, we need to launch the campaign, and then we need to measure it again. And that is how we are able to measure the behavior change. And of course, step number 5, we need to remember that behavior change takes repetition. And yes, during my education at Johns Hopkins, we studied some theories that explained why we need repetition and how to do it. But of course, I will not introduce you one theory for now. I hope that this theory of planned behavior will be useful for you. But we need to remember that we don't assume one message is enough. We need to track what is working and what is not. For example, if you see that there are no change after your campaign, it means that you need to change something, which is logically. Double down on what drives action, of course, and reinforce the new behavior over time. Because the main goal is not just to communicate once. The main goal is not just to create a fancy communication campaign. The goal is to make the new behavior stick. To summarize all those steps, let's repeat it again. So step number 1 is defining the behavior. Number 2, we need to understand what drives or blocks it. And here I introduced you the theory of planned behavior. And that is why step number 3, we develop the campaign that shift those 3 factors that shape our human beings' behavior. So it is attitude, social norms, and perceived control. Step number 4, we measure the behavior, not just impressions. And step number 5, we reinforce until it sticks. Behavior communication, it is not just theory. I work in this field. I have a consulting company, SHXP, and we turned this behavior changing communication into diagnostic model, and we applied it in the Gulf region and actually in Europe as well, because we started to work with European clients right now as well. So at SageXP, we developed a diagnostic framework that help us to assess the maturity level of internal comms and corporate culture functions, because usually we can measure the results of campaigns or behavior change or something like that. But to help our clients and to help organizations to assess their function overall, we developed this model, and it consists of 4 evaluation dimensions. So first of all, it's reach, the percentage of employees reached through internal comms and corporate culture. Second one is engagement level, the percentage of employees engaging with the tools and programs provided. Because reaching employees now is much easier than it was, like, for example, 15 years ago or 20 years ago, due to technology development and so on. But now we have new problems that, yes, we can reach them, but we have no idea how to engage employees with the tools and programs that we provide. Number 3 is measurement. We need to measure the results. And here we evaluate whether the impact of the function is measured or no. And the 4th is effectiveness level. We need to assess the level of effectiveness in achieving the function's goals. We don't need any surveys or like software or something like that. We need just to evaluate those 4 criteria. And overall, an organization's maturity level is determined by the lowest performing dimensions. And we can categorize companies, not companies, but their functions into 4 levels of the development: started, aligned, grounded, and established. Also in the Gulf, we conducted the first internal comms and corporate culture research. It was the first one for our region, because all academic and corporate studies usually did not reflect our region. So usually all data and all benchmarks comes from North America and Europe, and that is why it was the first research study. By the way, if you want to receive a full report, you can just text me on LinkedIn and I will share it with you. So according to our research study, we had more than 130 participants. Those companies were from 6 Gulf countries. And we can see that 30% of them are at the very beginning of their function establishment, and most of them are in the middle. So most of them, they can reach their employees, but they struggle to engage them, or they don't measure the function effectiveness, and so on. That is why it demonstrates us that we have a room for improvement in our region, and we are trying to do it. And why this model is effective for organizations? Because they don't need any like surveys or something, and they can understand their current maturity level, and they can prioritize actions that deliver measurable impact. So they can understand their next steps. What do they need to focus on to develop to increase their impact? And now, from internal performance to personal visibility. I started my LinkedIn profile less than a year ago. So it almost a year will be in maybe next month. And when I started, I had a goal. I wanted to establish my personal brand on LinkedIn, and I had 0 information about LinkedIn. I was not active there at all. And I had only 700 followers. They were my colleagues, friends, and of course, my husband. And for now, I reached over 13,000 of followers. And I know that some of them are now, and thank you for participating here. And also currently I'm ranked number 5 on LinkedIn's communication category, according Favicon. It's like worldwide, and number 1 in Bahrain. And of course, you can ask me like, what is my secret and how I was able to do it. And of course, all those theories and everything, it works and it helps. And a lot of people usually ask me to explain like LinkedIn algorithms and so on and so on. But my secret number 1 is knowing my target audience. I even took a course of my favorite ever professor, Dr. Daniel Leak. And I think that for communication students, this course, it was understanding your audience, or the name of the course, something like that. And I think it is one of the most important course for any communication professional, because knowing your audience is a secret weapon you can use. And great communication starts with knowing who you are talking to. So I mapped my audience on LinkedIn, and I did it the same way I do for internal communication campaigns. I worked for external communication as well, but I just in love with internal communications. That is why I'm talking today about it. So for LinkedIn, I mapped my audience. I do understand what internal comms, HR, and communication professionals and leadership teams care about and what they struggle with. I know their problems. I know their pain points. I know their their professional and personal understanding of the function. So I did a big job of analyzing my target audience. And that is why my content resonates, because it speaks to real challenges, to real problems, to real things that my target audience experience like every day in their work, not assumptions. Secret number 2 is consistency. And from my point of view, consistency, it is not just about some beautiful pictures or something. Consistency, it is strategic. That is why I developed one visual language across all my content. And this visual language builds instant recognition. Also, I have clear, repeatable formats. And I defined tone and style for my posts. And yes, at the very beginning, I thought that, oh my God, how will I do it? I have no idea about LinkedIn. But then I stopped and I decided, come on, if I can do great communication campaign and if I can build communication systems for my previous employers, if I can build it for my clients, and if I have great results, probably I can do it for myself as well. And yes, I started with developing communication strategy for myself, for my personal brand. Step number 1 was audience profiling. Of course, I created messaging map, and it was Dr. Karen, my professor. The name of the course was strategic management. It was about how to develop communication strategy. And she shared great tool on how to develop messaging map, and I used it as well for me. So of course, before my studies, I knew all the details from my experience, and it was quite successful experience actually. But knowing all those theories and additional tools, I knew for sure that it will work. And I use them for creating this strategy for my personal brand. And now I want to show you some examples of my posts. As you can see, they are consistent. So we can see, and my audience can see that, yes, it's Katerina. And just scrolling LinkedIn, they can see that, it's Katerina's post. because I have this consistency, and I think it is important. So yes, of course, I had a designer who created all those brand elements for me. But for now, I use it absolutely by myself, and I create all those cards for LinkedIn by myself because I have this as a tool, and I think it is important for brand awareness, even if it is just a personal brand, not a company brand. And you can see that first 3 cards are from my personal page, and down cards with logo are from my company's page that I launched, SageXP. And they all look in the one style. And I wanted to share with you what LinkedIn gave me for this time in less than a year. So I attracted more than 130 different companies to my Gulf research study. And as I have already mentioned, it was first benchmark study, and it is very popular now in the region, because before our colleagues here did not have a chance to compare their companies with companies from our market. So yes, knowing trends from global markets is important, but sometimes those global trends, they simply don't reflect regional specific things. And that is why it was important. And I attracted those participants just through LinkedIn. Also, I received speakers invitation to my regional conferences. And what was the most surprising for me, that I landed my first consulting client directly through LinkedIn. And I did not expect it. I was sure that my first client will be through recommendations from my previous employers or through my research study or something like that. But no, my first client landed through LinkedIn. And of course, I invited to speak on multiple podcasts, and even published in 2 international books about communications. So to summarize this blog about LinkedIn, for me, LinkedIn, it is also communication, just another tool of communication. It's just with a different audience. And that is why principles that I use for any communication campaign here are the same. First of all, know who you are talking to. Second one, speak their language. And the third one, be consistent and useful. That is it. And I'm ready to answer your questions.
Yep, thank you so very much. Yeah, so please feel free to put your question in the Q&A box, or you can put it in the comments. So we have a first one by Gabrielle. How did you analyze your target audience? Did you look at LinkedIn profiles of targets?
So I analyzed like content, and not only on LinkedIn. So knowing your target audience means not knowing your target audience inside one tool. It is knowing overall their problems. So I studied different research. So I analyzed different research studies on my topic about internal comms. I checked research studies on corporate communication functions overall, because I needed to know their problems, trends, and so on. So I used different ways of analyzing, including analyzing research studies and, of course, content on LinkedIn and media and conferences all over, because my target audience, yes, I want to reach them through LinkedIn, but they have a real life and real work outside the LinkedIn. And I wanted to reach them through LinkedIn, but communicating about their real world problems.
Mm-hmm. Great. And then Danielle Leek, who also teaches for us, what has been the most surprising part of your experience transitioning from being a student to being a professional consultant?
Is it a question from Danielle Leek?
Yeah.
Oh my God, Daniel, if you are here, thank you so much for being here. I want to mention that I took 2 courses from Daniel, and moreover, she even came for my graduation ceremony. And yes, so I'm so excited that I forgot your question. Patricia, could you please
So
repeat it?
what has been the most surprising part of your experience transitioning from being a student to being a professional consultant?
Maybe first of all that I use that I apply all those theories because sometimes I thought that, oh my God, it's too much and I can't remember all those theories and so on. And then I started to realize that different tools and theories simply help me to understand why this part of like why. And it was good and important, and they can use it. And also my clients value that I have this education because it really helps, and it demonstrates that my suggestions based not only on my experience but on proved theories. And so this transition, but the funniest part that I prefer to work more than to study because I have employees who can help me to do some things, and I don't need to write all those papers by myself.
Yes. Yeah,
But actually, I want to mention about the papers because I remember that, by the way, it was with Daniel when she asked us to develop some papers, and so I said that, oh my God, why do I need to do it? I already understand everything. I don't want to write down it. But now I use some frameworks from Dr. Daniel courses like quite often, and I do remember them. So like
That's
ABC
great.
communications and those like key messaging development. Yeah, it was great.
Excellent. Thank you. We have another question. So few companies who are just starting in their internal comms journey and have just hired 1 to 2 employees aspires to do a lot of things at one go and wants to see success in terms of data points in short-term time, so 6 months. Is it viable? How to deal with such a workplace expectation after you join the team? So basically, as you have, I'm sure, experience being a one-person show, so what is viable and what how can someone be successful in that role?
Yeah, so first of all, if you just started your role and if you just launch this function, you need to start with the analysis, and you need to start with analyzing everything that you can analyze. Which tools do you have? Are they effective or no? Can they reach different employees groups or no? Also, you need to start with audience profiling. You need to understand who are your audience. You need to categorize them into different groups because you need to understand how you can reach different groups and how you can engage different groups. And so after making this analysis step, you can share the results with your manager, with your boss, and you can show your next steps. And you can develop a strategy that will reach different employee groups. You can create messaging framework, and you can measure the results before and after your campaigns. And that is how you will see quick wins, because if you, of course, you will need to convey some information, and you need to do both things at the same time. So you need to develop strategy and you need to convey some information. And sometimes you struggle to make some strategic work because you need to make some day-to-day work. But if you find time for this part of your responsibilities, you will be able to show both. So from one side, you can show the results of your campaigns, some quick wins, some changes. And from another side, you can demonstrate the result of your strategy development and your plans and how you're going to change maybe the behavior or something like that. And you can demonstrate it to your colleagues, leadership, and your team.
Thank you. And we have a question from Kat. So for large organizations, how do you define a behavior change to go with a policy change? For example, the policy update is, we are changing the model for rotating staff geographically. We want staff to know and understand, but what behavior matches that?
So first of all, sometimes you can't define the behavior by yourself, and you need to ask your stakeholder. And it is normal that you can't do all the job, because your job is to find the best way to shape the behavior and to suggest to your stakeholders some options. And of course, you need to be in conversation with your stakeholders, and you need to define those behavior and those baseline with them, because they know deeply their business, their needs, and so on. And you are responsible for the process of shaping, of delivering information, and of shaping the behavior.
Right. And then another question. I'm curious about how you determine the subjective norm of the campaign when your target audience is large.
By segmentation. And that is why when I'm starting, even for small organization, or especially for large organization, when I had 350,000 of employees, step number one is audience profiling. And in this step number one, inside the audience profiling, step number one is segmentation. So you can, maybe you can segment them by role, like blue collars, office staff, manufacturing staff, sales team, and so on. Maybe you can segment them by location. For example, I segmented both by location and inside this location by their profession. So segmentation is the key. Segmentation and then audience profiling inside those segments. And as deeply you understand your target audience, the best you understand them, the best your campaign will deliver the results.
Yeah, I always tell my students the two most important things in communication: know your purpose and know your audience.
Yes, exactly. And unfortunately, even with knowing the purpose is a problem, because usually professionals want to deliver some campaign, but they don't know what do they want, like what do they want to change.
All right, we have a question from Aaron. Did you always want to go into internal communications?
No. In my early career, I wanted to work in external communications, but my career I started in employer branding. It was like 18 years ago, almost 20. Then I started in corporate culture. So I developed some recognition programs, some culture programs, and so on. And then I realized the impact of those recognition programs. I realized that those programs actually change employees' life, that they became like happier. And I realized that it's for me the most interesting job ever. And that is how I started to work in internal communications. After that, I tried to work in external comms, and they had the biggest projects you can work on in the country. And it was interesting, but for me, it's more like for my personal goals, it is more interesting to work in internal comms, because I feel this impact and I see this impact.
Yeah.
And it is my passion. I can even say that it is my passion.
That's great. Thank you. Can you, so it's from Joe Sinclair, can you talk more about the process you follow to do message mapping? Is this about segmenting your audience to ensure it's targeted?
Yes. So first of all, you need to take a course from Dr. Karen. So you need to understand your core messages, and they are the same. But then those messages can be different a little bit for your target audience, because you need to understand their language. And when I tell language, I don't mean like it is English or like German. Yeah, I mean how it is easier for them to receive this information. So their language they speak like in their everyday life, even their like jargons and so on. So yes, you have core messages, and then you start to make like a cascade for those messages for your different target audiences, and they can be different. And also you need to remember that key message, it does not mean that you need to deliver it exactly the same way all the time. No, key message is the idea that need to be in your head, in your target audience head, of course. Yes. So the wording can be different, but the idea must be the same.
Great, thank you. And then, of course, you knew these questions were coming, as did I, with AI. So, in what ways and in which areas can AI tools best support behavioral communication campaigns?
First of all, in personalization, because when we can do personalization, it will reach and it will engage our target audience better. That is a quick answer.
Okay. And then how has AI affected your work, if at all?
By the way, Dr. Daniel Leak had a separate module for us where she explained how to use AI better in communications. And yes, I do use ChatGPT and Copilot every day. Of course, I do have employees in my consultancy, but ChatGPT is also my employee. And so it affected because it can create some text. Of course, I can't rely on it absolutely, no, but it can helps me. It can help me with some ideas, with some messaging, and some such things.
Thank you. And then when behavior change campaigns fail, how much of that failure can be attributed to resistance, and what communication tactics can help turn resistance into engagement?
You need to understand the reasons of resistance. So the best answer is, once again, according to theory of planned behavior, we need to understand what blocks this behavior. So attitude, social norms, or perceived control. And we need to understand where we have a problem and where are the reasons of this resistance. Maybe people don't feel capable to demonstrate this behavior, or maybe they don't see that it is valuable for them. So we need to analyze all those three factors and need to recreate our communication campaign accordingly.
Great, thank you. And then what tools do you recommend for audience profiling or segmenting? Kat is trying to map 16,000 employees. We're doing focus groups and in-depth stakeholder meetings, but what else do you recommend?
We simply use Excel.
Really?
Of course, yes. So audience segmentation or profiling and so on, first of all, it is not about tools. First of all, it is about understanding of the best way to segment them, of understanding how you can combine groups and what do you want to know about them. So maybe I'm not the best person to answer this question because all those new tools is not about me. I have my team. Maybe I don't know if they're here today or no. Maybe they can answer better. Yes. So, but I think that the main idea of anything that you do is you need to understand the logic and the principle of how you want to segment your audience. So unfortunately, I can't recommend some specific tools.
All right. And then we have another question. What do you recommend from your experience for successful stakeholder relationship building and management? There are many stakeholders in internal comms. How do we reach common ground with all of them, as well as the internal comm strategy for the benefit of employee experience?
It's a good question because internal comms functions still struggle with this understanding of our role in the company and so on. And I have like simple ways. So first of all, I think that we need to, it is from my experience, what I did in my previous work. So first of all, I developed a short presentation about my function. And I was trying to schedule short meetings with leadership just to explain them what is it about and what is it in it for them. According to our theory of planned behavior, the first one is attitude. And I needed to shape this attitude. So I wanted to demonstrate them what is it in it for them. And of course, if I knew their problems or their projects, what they're going to launch and so on, I was trying to introduce them how I can help them and how can I solve their problems. And of course, I was trying to speak their language as well. So you can start with this. Also, if you have at least one function with good relationships and you can demonstrate some results for this function, you can use it as a case study. For example, when I started to build my function for this company with 350,000 of employees, I struggled even to approve some initiatives, and some of them took months and years. It was crazy. But in some years, when I delivered strong results and when other functions saw those results, they came to me themselves. So at the very beginning, I was not able to reach them, but then they asked for our help. So you need to demonstrate your results. And so first one is schedule some meetings. Second one, try to demonstrate your results. So you can build brand awareness for your company or for some campaigns inside the company. And you need to do the same for your function and for your for yourself as well. So you need to, if you have some great results, please share it with your company and with your leadership, and try to ask your boss to share those results with CEO, with other leadership, and so on. You need to build your own brand awareness inside your company.
Absolutely. One of my quotes that I made up is you can't promote what you don't produce. And so I think that's an excellent answer to that. Okay, we have another question. What courses, books, or sources do you recommend to expand knowledge about internal communication?
It's a difficult question about internal communications, actually. So you can follow some people on LinkedIn, probably like Joanna person. She shared some great tips, and I can't actually recommend some specific books. I can recommend something from overall communications, but not from specifically internal comms, because usually they cover only like specific areas, not the overall problems. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. We have another question. As a student interested in consulting, I'm curious about how would you recommend someone to start building experience or skills to enter this field, especially an independent or boutique consulting firm?
It's a good question. Probably I'm also not the best person to answer it, because I never wanted to work in consulting, because I'm absolutely corporate person, and I was in love with my career in corporate in corporate sector, and it's more than coincidence that I developed my own and I created my own consultancy, actually. Yes, but I do love my job now. And probably my best advice is to be curious. Doesn't matter where you are working. Like if you're inside corporate, if you have skills and capabilities, it doesn't matter where you will start. But actually, my husband works in consultancy for many years. And I know from his experience that if you start early in consulting, you will build your career quite faster inside the consultancy. Because if you start like late, it will be much harder for you. I think it's quite a tough area.
Yeah. And I would add to that too, is just be yourself. Your unique you is what is going to land you clients, because there are a million consultants. I live in DC. The running joke is everyone's a consultant in DC. So be your unique self, and what is it in for them that makes you the person they want to hire?
Yeah, and by the way, it is why I started to develop my LinkedIn, because in consultancy, people like companies, they prefer to hire you, not the company. They prefer specific some people, and that is why it is important to demonstrate your results, your skills, and what is it in it for them to hire you. What will you bring them?
Yeah, exactly. And I have a question for you. So I know you're super active on LinkedIn. And I love, like I said, I love following you. And How much time a day would you say you spend on LinkedIn?
A few hours
Few
every
hours.
day.
Yeah, that's
So
not insignificant amount of time.
no, it's actually a lot because I have my job, I have my clients, and we
Your
have
family
huge
and
projects,
yeah.
and also have 2 kids.
Uh-huh.
Yes, so usually I spend Sunday for my a week plan,
Mhm.
and I create posts for a week on Sunday.
Okay.
And I schedule them ahead.
Mhm.
And usually it takes like 6 hours, I think,
Wow.
from 4
Okay.
to 6 hours.
Yeah.
Yes, but it is for the whole week,
Okay.
for the upcoming week. And
Mhm.
then every day, few hours for some commenting,
Mhm.
answering, and so on.
Mhm. Yeah. And so I know we have quite a few students on this webinar. Can you just remind them how important it is to have their LinkedIn be consistent, update it, because they're not always forward thinking, and just how important it is for just their brand, their image, their reputation.
I will just share with you my personal example. And by the way, I remember when we met with Dr. Daniel Leak this May, and I shared my plans, and we discussed that probably I will take 2 years. And
Mhm.
if I have at least one client during this 2 years, I will continue my consulting company because
Mhm.
yeah. So, but if not, I will I will go to corporate again.
Mhm.
So my first client came just when I launched my company through LinkedIn. And I
Mhm.
have few clients, and I have already scheduled some projects for next year as well.
Good.
And that is why that is a real example of consistency on
Mhm.
LinkedIn, on your
Mhm.
personal brand awareness and building. That is my real life example. So I don't need those 2 years. I was thinking about those 2 years, but my first client came even before I launched the company, and just after launching the company, we signed the contract, and we are working on a big project. So
That's fantastic. And then I don't see any other questions. Oh, wait. Yeah, I don't see any other questions, but I have one last question. So what made theory of planned behavior stick to you? Because as you mentioned, you've learned many theories throughout the program, and there are many behavior change theories out there. So why do you think that one stuck with you?
because it is very simple, and it explains you how you can create your communication campaign step by step, and it gives you answers on what exactly you need to communicate.
Mhm.
And that is so simple. You just follow those 3 factors, and you
Mhm.
can reach and you can change the behavior just following those 3 simple factors, and that's it.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. We are just about at 1 o'clock. Thank you for all the attendees. Thank you for so many great questions. And I really appreciate your time. What time is it where you are right now, anyways?
Now it's 9 p.m.
9 p.m.
My
Okay,
kids are
okay,
sleeping already.
okay. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your expertise. And thank you all for attending. And you feel free to reach out to Katerina. She gave all the great contact information, and definitely follow her on LinkedIn. And
Thank you so
Karen,
much, Patricia. Thank
mhm,
you.
bye.